Hello pattern lovers, welcome to yet another exciting tutorial, and today's video will be a detailed tutorial on how to go about your dartless corset, something as beautiful as this. And this one is different because I showed you how to draft it with your yoke without having to drape it after you're done. I also showed you how to create your homemade cup, the one that is well cupped, using the guide from the pattern. This is going to be a sweet ride because as you can see on the pattern, there is no dart anywhere, yet it snatches the waist. I'm sure you want to know the possibility of this. Kindly watch to the end and let's get right into it. My pattern paper is ready and I created a space for the front and the back. Okay, with this we'll have to draft the front and back in the same paper. So I'll start from this shoulder line here and go down to the length of this blouse, and I'm using 23.5. I'll mark it on this other end just to have a straight line. So if you're following up, just go ahead and mark all the way to your hip line. I'll still be doing that in this video. So having done that, I'm going to start again from the top line and go down to the bust point. This is something you can just do once. So I'll start from the shoulder, go down to 10 inches, which is the bust point that I'm using for this tutorial. Next, I will mark the shoulder measurement divided by 2, 15 divided by 2, 7.5. Then I'll go down to the armhole length, and I'm using 8.5 here. I'll mark the shoulder measurement divided by 2 again at that point, just to make sure I have a straight line for the armhole. And I'm going to read it out like this. I'll go ahead and do the same thing for the back. Divide the shoulder by 2, go down to 8.5, which is the armhole length, and just read it out like so. Okay. Next, I'm going to get the standard neckline measurement for me, which is 3 inches. Then I'm going to mark 1.5 for the shoulder slope for the front. Okay, the back is going to be 1 inch, but for the front, I'm using 1.5. Then I'll slant it to that 3 inches. Then I'll measure what I have here from that shoulder slope to the armhole length and divide it into 2. I'm going to come in by 0.5 or 0.6. You can do 0.5 or 0.75 on this point. Okay, then I'm going to connect it just the same way you see it. Next, I'll take the bust measurement divided by 4 on this armhole length, and I'll curve the armhole to meet the other half I already have there. Now I'll come to this bust point and mark my bust span nipple to nipple. I'll mark it on the blouse length too. Then I'm going to connect it like this. Make sure you have your accurate bust span measurement on this point. I'll start from the top and measure down to the under bust line, and I'm using 13.5 for this tutorial. I'll also go down to the waistline, and I'm using 17.5 as the waistline. After that, I'm going to roll it out like so, the under bust and then the waistline, and then I'll go ahead and label it bust point, under bust, waistline, and blouse length. Next, I'm going to take the waist measurement, but what you're going to do is to minus 0.75 or half inch. So if you minus half inch, that means you're taking out 2 inches from your waistline. But if you do 0.75, that means you're taking out 3 inches. And if you do 1 inch, that means you're taking out 4 inches from your waistline. So choose your struggle carefully. I'll go back to the bust point and mark my exact bust measurement divided by 4. And I'm going to connect it to the waistline that I minused 0.75 from. Okay, divide the waist by 4 and then you're going to minus 0.75. That's if you're going for 0.75. I'll start from the waistline, like I said before, and go down to the hip line and roll it out like so. This is just to guide me to have a very nice shape, the one that will follow my body shape. Then I'll take the hip measurement on the hip line. Okay, I'm going to place my curve this way and connect it from the waistline to the hip measurement. So if you're going to wear a hip pad with your corset, make sure you wear it while taking your measurement, so that you take the hip measurement, the exact hip measurement with the hip pad on the hip line. Right, I'll come up from the blouse length 1 inch, then I'm going to curve it the same way. You can decide to leave it straight if you want. You can even decide to go up the more. Then the next thing I like to do is to, on the waistline, I'm going to mark half inch up, half inch down. Then I'm going to take the waist measurement again on those 2 points, right? This is just to blend in the waistline. When we get to the back, I'll be showing you another way to do it, but the waistline is not this sharp, so you have to blend it to follow your body shape. And if you'll be using the waist tape, the gloss grain band, it will even be very easier for you when you have a blended waist or a well contoured waistline, right? Next, I'll come down from the armhole line 1 inch. Then I'm going to start from the shoulder line and go down to the cleavage line. I marked 7 inches here, and later on in this video I blended it to be 7.5, but make sure you start from 7. Cupped corset is not really nice when the cleavage start from 6 inches. It will be too up. Then I'll get the midpoint of the shoulder slope and connect it like this. This is totally optional. You can decide to ignore that part. So I have 1 inch from the armhole there. Then on the bust point, I'm going to go up 0.75. You can decide to just leave it on that bust point, or if you can come down the more, depending on how plunge you want the neckline to be. Okay, so I'll go up 3 inches from the bust point, and like I said, later on I made it 2.5. Then the next thing I'm going to do now is to create the bridge, the bust bridge, and I'm using half inch. By the time I open it up, it's going to be 1 inch. Okay, if you're on a bigger side, you can do 0.75 there, or even 1 inch. So now I'm going to connect these 3 points from the neckline depth here to the 3 inches I came up from the bust point, and then to the 1 inch I came down from the armhole. So notice how I'm placing this curve, because it's very important. This is going to be the yoke, so you want to make sure you know what you're doing on this point. Okay, so I'll blend this point, and as you can see already, this is too high for the yoke, or too deep on that over bust line. We'll come back to that, but for now I'm going to come in from the side seam line 1 inch. 1 inch is not standard, okay? Then I'm going to curve it like this. Make sure it's not too curvy on this point, and make sure it's not too wide, your bust going out of line when you wear your corset. You don't want that. So like I said, this 1 inch is not standard. If you're on a bigger side, you will see that you might even need to come in by 2 inches, but just make sure that what you have here is your cup width. Okay, you measure from the bridge to that point that the curve stops on the side, and make sure that you have your cup width there. I'm sure by now you know how to take your cup width measurement. So mine actually is 7.5, but I have 7 inches here, because the cup being too wide is not the guarantee that it will cup your bust so well. What matters is the how deep the cup is actually. Okay, that's why we want to create a custom made cup that would be so well cupped to contain the bust. So what I'll do now is to go ahead and measure around here, because that will be a guide to create or draft the custom made cup. And I'll write it down. I'll measure what I have on this upper part here too, and write it down. You can see how I'm placing the measuring tape. Do the same thing, okay, so that you have the accurate measurement. Then the cup width is 7 inches and the cup height is 6.5. Can you see that? Take note of all of this, because you will need it when we want to draft the cup. Okay, the next thing I'll do now is to go ahead and create my neckline for the yoke, and I'm using 3.5. I'll come down by 3.5 too on this other end as the neckline depth. Okay, 3.5 for the width and 3.5 for the depth, and I'm going to give it a round shape the same way. But it's important that you have your standard neckline measurement to guide you to get the shoulder slope. Okay, and it will also help to tighten the neckline by the time you want to do any neckline of choice. Now we move over to the back, and the first thing I will do is to measure down to the blouse length. You can see that there is no bust dart. This is dartless corset for a reason. There is no dart anywhere, so the back length and front length is going to be the same. Okay, I'm going to mark the same hip line, blouse length, and waistline. Then I'm going to rule all of them out. Next, I will come to the shoulder and take the standard neckline measurements again, 3. And I'm going to do the shoulder slope for the back of 1 inch. Then I'm going to slant it to meet the neck tip like that. Okay. Then I'm going to measure what I have left there from the shoulder slope to the armhole length and divide it by 2. I'll go in by 0.25. Remember, for the front, I came in ½ inch. And for the back, I did 0.25 and cover the armhole like that. Next, I'm going to come to this center back here and contour the center back line. It's very important, and I did a 0.75. Came down from the shoulder on the neckline 2 inches. Then I'm going to place my curve this same way and curve it to the up like that. Please notice how I'm placing this curve. Make sure you're doing the same thing so that it follows the body shape for the back. Right? Whatever you're going to do for the back will follow this shape. I'll start from that line and take the bust measurement divided by 4. I'll do the same thing for the waist. The waist measurement divided by 4 minus 0.75. Okay, make sure you have the same thing you have on the front. If not, for the center back, you would have used the front to just trace out the back. But because the center back is not straight, we don't want to trace out with what we have on the front. I'll measure what I have on the full length blouse length for the front and do the same thing for the blouse length here, and place my curve this way to curve it. So if you feel that the method I use for the front to contour the waistline for the front is too complicated, just place your curve the same way, then later on you blend it to have something like this. Okay, so I will also come down 1 inch from the armhole line and measure from the shoulder to that point. I have 9.5. I'll come here on the center back and mark 10.5. Okay, that's like 1 inch down from what I have on the, from coming down 1 inch from the armhole line. Right, you can connect the back neckline straight if you want, but I want it this way. So I'll mark 3.5 again as the back neckline width and 2 inches as the back neckline depth for the yoke. Okay, then I'm going to, on the center back, you can decide to take out 1 inch or 1.5, depending on how wide you want the piece that will contain your eyelet to be. Okay, but me, I like doing 1.5. 1.5 works just for me. I'll follow the same curve I already have on the waistline and curve it out like this. Can you see that? So whatever you take out here is totally optional because you already snatched the waist. Okay, this is just to create a piece for the eyelet. Then for the yoke, I want it like a teardrop like this. So I'm going to connect from that point that I took out, just something like this. Then the other part to contain the button or the hook. Okay, go ahead and give it any shape. You can also decide to come in 1 inch from that piece we took out on the center back. Next, I'm going to come up 1 inch from the side here and give it the same shape I have for the front. All right, and that's pretty much about it. We have the front and back piece ready. So the next thing now is to create the boning channels, and I'm following what I have on the thumbnail. I want that basque shape. I'm going to come in ½ inch from the center front on the hem, that's the blouse length, and connect it to the bust span line. Then I'm going to give like 2 inches space from that line, just 2 inches, and connect it to the up like that, about 2 inches to the up. Then if you're on a bigger size, you might want to just connect it like this all the way to the up, but you can see how close it is to the side, and I don't want that. So I'm going to just connect it like this. Okay, and it's also what is on the thumbnail. So this channel now will also handle your love handle. So I thought I was recording. What I did there was just to divide what I have on the waistline, divide it into 2 and connect it straight. I'm on a smaller size, like I said, so I don't want to have plenty lines on the back. Okay, so go ahead and label it. Please make sure you label before you cut out, because this will look funny after you cut it out if you do not label. Okay, label center front, middle front, side front, and then we have the side back and the center back. So in total I have 6 pieces, right? Indicate the part going to the up, and when you cut it out, also go ahead and notch. It will be easier that way. then we'll go ahead and cut it out. Okay.
It's only been a few days. I set my eyes on you, babe. Is it love at first sight? Turn on the lights, see the mess you made. 1, 2, in love with you. 3, 4, I'm on the floor. Come pick me up, oh, and tell me you know for sure. What you want, believe if you know, I believe. I'm not deceived, I'm not deceived. And my love go past the love you give me. If I follow your hand, I beg you.
So this is what it looks like after cutting it out. You can see how cute, and this is how much you snatched out of your waistline. The next thing we are going to do now is to do the homemade or custom made bra cup. We are going to draft it. The first thing I will do now is to just go ahead and mark a starting line that will serve as the center front. I will also mark a line here that would serve as the hem. Then remember those measurements we wrote down: the 13 and a half, the 8 and a half, the 7 inches, and 6.5. We will be taking note of that respectively. Okay, so to start with, what I'm going to do is to add 2 inches to my cup width. I measured 7 inches, you remember, right? I'm going to add 2 inches, making it 9 inches. If yours is 8 inches, you're going to add 2 inches, making it 10 inches. Then I'm marking 10 inches up too, just to have a square. It will not get to that 9 inches on the upper part, but for the side it's definitely going to get to that point. The next thing you're going to take note of the distance between the bust point to the under bust. Go back to your pattern and measure it. So mine is 3.75 and I added half inch to that, and that will be the bust point. So we have the bust point. Then the next thing I'm going to take note of is the bust span line. I'm using exactly what I used on the pattern, which is 4 inches, and which is like adding half inch because we have the bust bridge, right? I don't know if I'm confusing you, but just follow what I'm doing. On both sides of the bust span line, on the under bust, I'm going to mark 1.25, making it 2.5 total. Then on this bust point line, I'm going to mark 1 inch up, 1 inch down. Now, since you are fuller on the side bust, you can decide to do 0.75 on this side. But just so we're on the same page, I have 4 inches on the center and 5 inches on the side. If adding 2 inches to your cup width would confuse you, just go ahead and mark your bust span line, and on the side you're going to add 1 inch to it. I don't know if I'm actually making sense. So I'll mark the same thing I did on this center front here, which is 1 inch on both sides, and I'm going to just connect all of them. For the width of this cup, if adding 2 inches to what you measured as the cup width would confuse you, just go ahead and mark your bust span, and if it's 4 inches, you do 5 inches on the side. Alright, just to get the cup width for this custom made. I hope that is clear. So I'll go ahead and label it now, or indicate the bust point, because I might forget after drafting. Okay, so after all of that, I'm going to measure what I have on this down part. I'll measure the one side and transfer what I have on this other side and measure it all the way to the up. Then that way I would know what I have left. I have 10.25, and 13.5 minus 10.25 would give us 3.25. So what I will get on this upper part will be that 3.25. And to do that, I'm going to share the greater part of that 3.25 to the side and the smaller part on this center. So I'm marking 1.25 on this center here, and on the side I marked 2 inches. I'm going to just connect it straight like this. It's as simple as that. Okay, so after connecting, this is what it looks like. I'm going to measure the cup height, and we have 6.5 here. I have 7 inches, which is very much okay. Now I'm going to measure what I have on this point. Remember, we have on the yoke we have 8.5, and here I have 9 inches. So I'm going to take out half inch, and to do that I'm going to just mark about half inch here and then 0.25 on this end. Okay, I measured again and I have exactly 8.5. Another way you can do it is to take out that half inch on this bust span line, but that is not as realistic as this method we are doing here. So just go ahead and do it the same way, and this way it follows the same shape you have on the pattern. After cutting and after covering the cup, joining the cup, you can now decide to go ahead and still blend it to have the same shape you have on the yoke. I hope that makes sense. So I measured again and I have exactly what I need. And on the yoke, I said we'll be blending it in. So I'll go ahead and cut out what I have here. I'll first label 1, 2, 3 and indicate the part going to the bust point. Then I'll just go ahead and cut out what I have here. Then we'll go ahead and blend in the yoke.
It's only been a few days. I set my eyes on you, babe. Is it love at first sight? Turn on the lights, see the mess you made. 1, 2, in love with you. 3, 4, I'm on the floor. Come pick me up. Oh.
So after cutting, this is what I have. Now to blend in the yolk, you're going to tape it down on a fresh paper or pattern paper like so. Then you're just going to blend in like ½ inch from the curvy part, just like this. It's as simple as that. Now it looks like yolk. Then I'll just go ahead and cut it out and the yolk is set. So blending in the yolk this way will make it match up with the cup by the time you want to join the yolk to the cup area or the neckline. And the cup looks straight, but after joining or curving it, it's going to look like curvy. And this is what it looks like after all of that. So from that cup I created this and you can see how curvy it is. I just taped it down with sellotape and that's it. And like I was saying, it looks straight while drafting, but you can see it how it's blended to the yoke area and how it fits to the gap that we have there. So this is how the back is going to be, especially the waist part. These two green dots that I have here is how the eyelet will be, and that's where you snatch the waist. You see this updated lacing technique, that's this point. And also if you're adding your gloss green band or waist tape, is going to be on that side and also help to snatch your waist better. So just go ahead and transfer this to your fabric and happy sewing. And here comes the end of our tutorial today. I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.